The wedding invitation was never meant to be kind. It was designed like a quiet weapon, sealed in expensive paper and delivered with perfect timing. When Grace Miller opened it, her hands trembled, not from surprise, but from memory. The name printed inside, Daniel Miller, carried years of humiliation, abandonment, and silent prayers she thought had finally faded. He was getting married again, and he wanted her there to witness it. What Daniel never imagined was that the day he planned to shame her would become the day his own past stood tall in front of everyone. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that God can lift people in unexpected ways, take a moment now to like this video, share it, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that grace often arrives when least expected. Grace had once been Daniel's wife in every sense that mattered. They married young in a small Christian church in the United States, promising faith, loyalty, and love before God and family. Life was simple then, but full. When Grace became pregnant, joy filled their home, until the doctors revealed she was carrying triplets. Fear quickly replaced celebration. Daniel worried about money, responsibility, and the life he believed he was owed. Grace worried only about protecting the children growing inside her. The strain broke them slowly. Daniel began to resent the limitations, the sacrifices, the future that demanded more than he was willing to give. When the babies were born prematurely, Grace spent weeks sleeping in hospital chairs, praying over incubators, while Daniel grew distant. Then one night, he left. No dramatic goodbye, no explanation that made sense, just absence. By the time the triplets came home, Grace was alone. The divorce that followed stripped Grace of nearly everything except her faith and her children. Daniel's career took off quickly, while Grace worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, juggling childcare, exhaustion, and quiet tears whispering to prayer at night. There were days she skipped meals so the triplets could eat. Nights she cried herself to sleep, asking God why faith felt so heavy. The community saw her as the poor single mother, barely surviving. Daniel rarely visited. When he did, it was brief, distant, and transactional. Years passed. The triplets grew into bright, compassionate children bound tightly together. Grace raised them with discipline, prayer, and love. She taught them forgiveness even when her own heart still ached. Slowly, life began to change. A chance opportunity through a church connection led Grace into a small business project. She worked relentlessly, honest and patient, refusing shortcuts. What began as survival grew into success. Quietly, without announcements or pride, Grace rebuilt her life. Then came the invitation. Daniel's wedding was extravagant, held at a luxury venue filled with people who admired his success. Inviting Grace was not about closure. It was about comparison. He wanted to show the world how far he had risen and how far she had fallen. He expected her to arrive alone, embarrassed, still struggling. He expected validation. The morning of the wedding, Grace stood in front of a mirror, calm but reflective. She was not dressing for revenge. She was dressing for dignity. Her children stood beside her, now old enough to understand that today mattered. Outside, a black limousine waited, quiet, respectful, and symbolic of a journey no one had witnessed. When the limo pulled up to the venue, conversation stopped. Guests turned, curious. The doors opened slowly, and Grace stepped out first, poised and composed. Then came the triplets, dressed simply but elegantly, walking beside her with confidence. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Daniel saw them from across the courtyard, his smile faltering as recognition hit him like a sudden wave. Grace walked forward without hesitation. She was not there to embarrass anyone, but she would not shrink to protect Daniel's comfort. The years of judgment, whispers, and loneliness had refined her into something unshakable. People began to realize that the woman they thought they knew was not who they were seeing now. Inside the venue, tension settled like a heavy curtain. Daniel struggled to focus. His carefully planned moment had turned unfamiliar. Guests whispered questions. Some recognized the children and did the math. Others noticed Daniel's unease. Grace took her seat quietly, not seeking attention, but commanding it nonetheless. As the ceremony progressed, Daniel felt something unravel inside him. The success he had built suddenly felt hollow beside the living proof of what he had abandoned. The children he once feared had grown strong. The woman he once dismissed had become unbreakable. Grace had not arrived to shame him, but truth has a way of exposing things without words. During the reception, eyes followed Grace and the triplets. Guests approached respectfully, offering congratulations not meant for a bride, but for a survivor. Daniel's new wife noticed too, sensing a history deeper than she had been told. Daniel felt smaller with every passing moment, realizing that his attempt to control the narrative had failed completely. Grace left early, just as quietly as she arrived. She did not wait for apologies or explanations. Outside, as the limo pulled away, she closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, not of victory, but of release. She no longer needed validation from the past. Before the story ends, take a moment to comment below and share what the story made you feel or who it reminded you of. Your words may help someone else who is walking a similar road. Daniel stood alone long after the guest departed, surrounded by luxury that no longer comforted him. The image of Grace and the children lingered, not as an accusation, but as a mirror. He finally understood that success without integrity leaves nothing to celebrate. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or reminded you that patience and faith can transform pain into purpose, please like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps bring more stories of kindness, healing, and second chances to light. Grace returned home that night to laughter, warmth, and peace. She had not come to prove anything. She came as a woman who survived abandonment, raised 3 lives with love, and trusted God when the road made no sense. And that quiet victory, built over years of faith and endurance, was greater than any wedding applause ever could be.